Hello and welcome back to Nerd News Today, Toy Fair 2021. And now joining me on the other side of the screen, one of my favorite people in the entire toy industry. He is one of the partners over at Jazwares. We're chatting today with Jeremy Padawer. Jeremy, how's it going
What's
today?
going on, man? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you as well. You're like the mayor of Toy Fair. Whenever I see you, you're always like flooded with people and fans. You've done so much cool stuff, so it's no wonder.
Thank you very much. I really love that. In fact, I will say that social media has been my saving grace. Without being able to hang out with people because it almost is as good, but not as good.
You've been super active this past year, especially like you've been doing all sorts of raffles on your page, talking about all the toys, giving investment advice too. Because just the other day, in fact, you actually posted that you've now purchased a pristine edition of a Harry Potter book, and that's like a huge investment, huge deal. That's amazing too, just on its own.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, no, look, I like to give people, I like to just tell people what I'm doing. And because I feel like, for me, I've spent a lot of hours in my life looking at investment opportunities and alternative investments, and specifically in the collectible space, in addition to the tens of thousands of hours that I've worked professionally in the space. And my goal is just to pass on whatever knowledge and information I have. And I always tell people, like, look, investments can go up, they can go down. There's no promises, but this is what I'm doing.
I can see right now behind you, you've got some boxes of trading cards as well. So I know that's like a big thing right now because of Gary Vee and a lot of other folks who are saying trading cards are a great investment. And I've heard that from other people. I've heard people say graded comic books are going to be a better investment than being in the stock market. So what's your take on that? If I'm looking to retire, many decades from now, should I be getting into stocks and bonds or should I be jumping on graded comics?
You should be diversifying into all of those areas. What I tell people is that if you ask me, or if you asked an investment advisor 30 years ago, they would say real estate, equities, they would say bonds and stocks and all those things. And today they should also say put a percentage into things that you love, like collectibles. If you look, for instance, at like a 1952 PSA 10 Mickey Mantle, that card was $250,000 20 years ago, and today it's like $20 million. So while I wouldn't suggest that any return gives you 80 times, what I would say is that's a potential in a outlier scenario, and that you could and should invest a little bit of the money that you have into things like collectibles, because it does diversify your portfolio. But by no means would I ever suggest that anybody puts every last dollar into any vehicle and investment.
So in other words, don't go all in with collectibles.
Don't go all in. Go maybe 20% in, and I feel like you'll be pretty happy about where you end up.
All right, so Jeremy, first thing now, before we actually jump into some toy talk here, I've been asking everybody this weekend, Jeremy, what was your favorite toy as a kid growing up?
I had two favorite toys as a kid. So when I was a younger kid, it was Hot Wheels, and I would line them up across the floor, and I would sort of blindly and without thinking kind of guide them across the floor until one finished as the winner, without any sort of preconceived notion as to which car that would be. And it was cool because I ended up working on Hot Wheels 20 years ago. And then LJN wrestling figures in 1983, when Jack Friedman and LJN launched that brand. I was all over it as a 10-year-old, and it was really amazing to get to work with Jack all those years later, in 2003 or two, when I joined Jack's, and Jack Friedman was the CEO. He was quite an amazing guy. So those were the two biggest brands for me.
It's very cool to go full circle like that.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
So yeah, I want to talk a lot about UFC figures. I want to talk even more about AEW figures, but I also want to mention Micro Machines. You just posted about that as well, and you guys got your first license for the Micro Machines, correct?
Yeah, we what we realized was, if a consumer is given the opportunity between some generic, you know, like, let's just call it the Max Builder 3000 or the Ford Bronco, it's an easy choice. And frankly speaking, it just takes time to put together those licensing programs, or we would have launched right out of the gates with third-party licensing. But yeah, no, we announced some really cool licenses like GM and Ford, and we're going to be announcing some other big ones soon.
That's some really big news because last year when we saw the Micro Machines debut at Toy Fair, the comments I continue to get on that video I posted is just, "Where's the licenses? These aren't the cars I want." So it took a little bit of time, but you guys are doing it now, and that's very cool because Micro Machines are awesome in general, and it's great that you guys now have the licenses to back it up.
Thank you very much. And yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing. The toy industry, and just like anything else in life, it's a little bit of improvisation, right? So you deal with the cards you have and then you flow with them. But let me tell you, we signed those licenses as fast as we could, and you'll start seeing the results of that later in the spring and throughout the entire year.
That's very cool. But Jeremy, that's the end of the easy questions because I got a bunch of hardballs now to throw your way, a bunch
Oh
of
boy,
curveballs.
here
I
we
don't play baseball. I don't know what the term is. I'm gonna throw a bunch of bricks at your head basically right now. Let's go with
go.
that.
I don't mind. I'm used to it. Let's go.
All right, so let's talk AEW UFC figures. So you guys launched them officially last year, and they have been some of the hardest figures to find, and to this day they remain some of the hardest figures to find on shelves in Walmarts, places like that. Even online, it's such a struggle to get them. So basically, what happened with the distribution? Was there just simply not enough supply to meet the demand, or was there just maybe too many flippers, too many scalpers?
I think all of the above. So first of all, when you launch a new brand in the toy space, every brand that you launch is like a startup company, and there's a lot of getting your feet under you. The brand manager, the design, marketing. You just have to make sure everyone's coordinated. And even if they have all the experience in the world, it's like putting together a new team in the NBA. They're not going to win the championship in the first season. It just won't happen that way. But you can always look to improve what you're doing. So here's what happened. Three things. Number one, you go out there with a brand new content that no one's ever heard of, including factories, when you're working with factories and sourcing. So you end up launching with a reasonably sized factory that has never heard of this particular brand and may have 8 other brands that they've heard of every single day. So you get a certain level of allocated support. Okay. But that allocated support seemed to match what retail's expectations were in terms of the sales that would be required to be considered a success, right? So what you do is then you have all of that together and you say, well, the worst thing that I can do is overship. The best thing that I can do is meet demand. And somewhere in between those two things is meeting retail's expectation, but leaving the supply a little short of demand. And I would say that we left supply more short of demand than I would have liked, but we satisfied retails significantly, and we improved our manufacturing magnificently. So as we go into this year, 2021, I think we've resolved a lot of things. We've expanded our distribution. We've expanded into 2 lines with unrivaled and unmatched launching this fall. And our objective all along the way is never to overship, because overshipping, even if you're dealing with Star Wars, even if you're dealing with Star Wars in a movie year, if you overship, retail looks at it as if it's a failure. So it's a very fine line. It's like a big symphony balancing act. You're like, but I fully agree with the basis of what you're saying. Definitely, we need to get closer to consumer demand, and I think we're making those moves.
And what are some of the steps that you guys are doing to implement this strategy? I believe you guys are ahead of the target this year too, right? But
Yeah.
and what are you guys doing to really increase that supply?
So number one, increasing the number of distribution sites, more doors, Target, Walmart, Amazon, GameStop, like Ringside, of course, offering more exclusives to like Ringside to even further differentiate them and give them an opportunity, offering some exclusives to Amazon, going deeper into the roster by having 2 different waves out simultaneously. So instead of having 6 waves a year, we'll have 12 waves a year. That gets you deeper into the roster, and it gets you 2 specific areas at retail. So you're not just dealing with 1 peg, you're dealing with 2. And then measuring consumer demand and manufacturing a little bit more per wave in order to meet that demand.
And I'm going to basically lightning round you with some AEW questions in a little bit. But first, I want to make sure we cover UFC as well, because just recently you guys announced the next wave of UFC figures. And with that initial wave, there was a little bit of a problem. Of course, they came a little too small. So this time around,
Right.
you guys have corrected that issue. And from the proto photos you guys have shown, it looks like you've also eliminated those fabric shorts. So can you
Yeah.
talk about basically what changes you've made for the UFC figures and what we could expect to see in 2021?
Yeah. So the two, I think, obviously, when you are launching a new brand, there are a lot of different ways you can go with it. And the way that the company decided to go with that brand was more, I would say, Japanese style scale, which was fine. But there was some consumer feedback that they'd like to have it in fight scale. there was consumer feedback that the fabric trunks were not really what they were desiring. And so we just reacted to consumer feedback, and we regrouped, and we launched something that we hope sort of fits that need, because now they are in scale with AEW and with WWE and the other fight figures.
In addition to that, you are of course the godfather of the classic legends in Jack's Toys, Jack's Wrestling
Yeah.
figures, and when you guys had UFC back in the day too, you did a bunch of legends there as well. So I'm curious if you're going to stick with just the current roster of UFC fighters, or if there's plans to make legendary fighters.
There are. I think with UFC at retail right now, the way we're launching, and essentially this is not entirely our choice, is that we're looking for a home. So while we are getting feature space, the objective is to have a full-time, full-fledged program. And so that's the process. So in 2021, you'll see probably 2 or 3 waves of figures. They will be feature-based, feature space, like end caps, palette type programs. And we believe that the brand and the product itself will sell through very nicely, giving us a full-time space for 2022.
Now the AEW figures have chase figures. Will the UFC figures have chases as well?
The UFC does have chase. I believe Jorge Masvidal is the chase in this wave. There were 2 styles. I think it's the younger Jorge. But yes. So there will be, I believe, 1 chase per wave. And by the way, to answer the Legends question that you asked, the objective would be yes, especially when we have full-time placement.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. I'm also wondering when you guys are going to have the Octagon ready. We kind of saw that at Toy Fair last year. So I'm curious when that's going to be out. And are there plans for, well, I'm trying to think of the best way to ask this, but back in the Jack's days, you guys had that real scale, really supersized Octagon. Are there
Yeah.
plans to do one of those as well?
I think that would go hand in hand with having the full-time placement versus feature space. But also, if you guys want to see that sooner, there may be a way to work something with Ringside where we can get something like that out sooner.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah. And I'm wondering also, will Ringside be getting any UFC exclusives?
That's a real possibility. Yeah, I mean, that's something that we're also talking about in real time. And if we did have something that was lined up, I would communicate it to you. But it's still something we're discussing and trying to figure out what the MOQs look like, and really, I think there needs to be a little bit more sales data before we jump to that with Jonathan. Oh goodness. Well, you know us. I mean, we tend to do a mix of, I would say the main eventers will make up about 50% of the assortment, and mid-carders will make up probably 35% of the assortment. And then everything else sort of falls into that 15%. So if you watch the headliners and you look at the pay-per-views, you'll pretty much see the main event folks represented in every way. You name it, and they'll be there. In the 15%, it's really up and comers, people that are making a real mark, people that are making comebacks and they're not necessarily on the main card, and maybe some legends thrown in as well.
I appreciate that answer because you gave me an answer, but you didn't tell me any names. So that's very smart. Very political move you did there. Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Well played, sir.
I've done this a long time, my friend. It's amazing. It's amazing what sort of gymnastics I can do.
That really was. I'm taking notes on that. That was brilliant. So let's jump into AEW now because I've been buying those. I'm a big fan of those, and I want to keep those toys going. So as you mentioned, there is going to be now Unrivaled and Unmatched.
Yes.
And so I want to actually address some leaks first. That's been a thing that's been happening with these toys.
Yes.
Recently, in fact, Series 5 got leaked. We saw a leak for it looks like a ringside exclusive Cody with a TNT title.
Right.
So I'm going to assume these are truths. Maybe you can or can't talk about them, but what's going on with the leaks?
I'll speak openly. So we're just waiting too long to announce the lineups, and we're waiting too long to show images. And it's just a learning. There's nothing wrong with it. It happens on every brand, and frankly speaking, it's a good indicator that people love the brand and they want information for the brand. But when you really get to the heart of it, it is a scenario that the reason why you have to announce really early is because there really is no absolute guarantees that you can control a factory at the individual level. Because generally what you'll see a really bad picture taken from a very inexpensive camera, in a very hurried situation where who knows, someone in the social media universe that are 3,000 miles away could be offering a factory worker $20 to leak some information. And I would never be able to promise anyone that you can defend against that. Now, we can have big rules and we can say, here are the rules of engagement. If you're going to work with us, do X, Y, and Z. But at the end of the day, you know, if people need the $20 more than they value the underlying job, you can't control for it. So the only way to control for it is to announce stuff earlier and to provide images earlier. And we're working on that right away. Obviously, we've seen it, we've lived it. And while there will be leaks, we're going to be announcing earlier.
So on the topic now, also of Unrivaled, Unmatched, where are these going to be available? Is one going to be exclusive to a certain distributor, or is basically everything AEW going to be available everywhere moving forward?
Right now, it looks as if Unmatched and Unrivaled will be available broadly.
That's great.
Now, it's still January, and retailers have until February, March to make the decisions on what their planograms look like. So that's always subject to change, right? Because I literally cannot, there's one thing in life I do know for a fact, and that is I cannot control what retail ultimately does. But that's the plan. And in terms of individuals, like I'm sure that we'll occasionally do exclusive figures for our big partners in drops that, you know, that make sense.
And one of the announcements you also recently made was that you guys are doing figure stands now, which is pretty cool. Are
Yeah.
those going to be included with the figures, or is that going to be like a thing that's a ringside exclusive?
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be like ringside, Amazon, stuff like that, where we're like, okay, you know, here's a I don't even know, 10 figure stands or 20 or whatever it may be. And then we'll give it some thought in terms of how we do it go forward. But obviously there's a lot of catch up that we need to do. So I think selling figure stands, it's not very glamorous, and it's very unlikely that we would have like a major retailer, brick and mortar, decide that that's a good use of their space. But there is real opportunity for figure stands, especially like with the accounts that I mentioned.
And Unrivaled, Unmatched, those are still going to be basically the same style figure, same height, right? Still a single pack for each one?
Yes. Yeah. Well, actually, no. I was gonna play a joke. I'm not even gonna play a joke. I do not want to play a joke. I'm not going to tell you that one is smaller. That would just lead to confusion and misconception. No, everything should be the same style. Now, we did talk about the idea that we were going to be doing some fun things in Unmatched, where there could be the opportunity for retro style figures. There could be the opportunity for LJNs. There could be the opportunity for various things like that. But we're talking about one per wave, and really, it's the idea is just to have a little bit of fun together.
Are there any possibilities of 2-packs? Because, you know, you got so many great tag teams in AEW. It'd be great to get them all in one shot.
Yeah, there's no question about it. There will be some 2-packs that come out. But the truth is, in 2021, you know, the idea is that you slowly but surely prove out your retail space. If we were to go to retail right away and say we want Unrivaled, Unmatched, 2-packs, Legends, blah 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 blah, and even if 2 or 3 of those things work and 3 don't, you could literally be entirely off the shelf with everything because they see it as an unproductive line. So instead of that, we're building the statement very deliberately. But I would say that it's very likely you'll see 2-packs offered exclusively somewhere, somehow in 2021. Mail call. I had a mail call.
So we're in the middle of the interview. Jeremy had himself a mail call. What is in the box, Jeremy?
Little FedEx. What's in the box?
We're doing an unboxing live.
Doing unboxing live. We have a FedEx here. I'm almost positive I know what's inside. And it's so cool. Are you ready? Rip this FedEx package apart. Here we go. This is the way a caveman opens a FedEx package.
Check the packaging.
Arr! Caveman. Oh, even further. Further here. Now, inside this is something very special. Very special. It has nothing to do with wrestling or any brand that I currently work on. But it is an absolute grail piece. Are you ready? This is the highest graded Jack Nicklaus 1971 rookie card in the world. Thank you.
Wow. How much did you pay for that beauty?
Too much. But, hopefully it'll be worth more one day. But no, I'm excited. It's good stuff.
That's some
Very good
serious.
stuff.
That's some serious return on investment right there.
1971 Barrett and Co. Jack Nicklaus rookie card, and in PSA 9 condition, and there are no tins. So there you go. That's the stuff that I do personally that I very much enjoy.
Well, I'm glad you got your endorphins back. I'm glad you're feeling all good because now I'm going to throw some more bricks at your head with these questions.
Oh no! What are the bricks? Wait, you said that there's only a few bricks. Now you got more bricks?
I found more when you went to go get the FedEx package.
Fair. All right, that's very fair. Go ahead. What do you got?
So on the topic of leaked figures, I just want to ask about that Cody figure one more time here. And in regards to that, I saw the picture has the TNT title belt. And I'm assuming that's the first version of the TNT title belt. So my question is that going to be the only way to get that version of the belt? Because they've made changes to it since then.
Um, that's a good point. It might be. It might be because I would say that unless we were doing something to celebrate a particular time, there would be a push to drive to the new style of belt. But as you know, there's always going to be another Cody in the assortment.
Never have too much Cody, that's for sure.
You can never have too much Cody. So never say never.
I know it's like one of the people's biggest complaints I see all the time is, oh, look, another Cody. Oh, look, another this guy, another that guy. I mean, you've already gotten another pair of Young Bucks out there. Adam Page is coming Series 5. But there is a reason for that. So maybe you could kind of expand on what that actually is.
Yeah. So it's true. So in any lineup, again, you have to have a percentage that is focused on the main eventers. You have to, every single lineup. And the main eventers change over time. But when they change, then you see that your individual lineup reflects that. So the beauty between having unmatched and unrivaled is that it does allow us to always have some main eventers out there, but to do what I love to do, which is to celebrate the entirety of the roster. And that's, that would look with classic superstars, you would see it every single wave. Every wave would have someone who was a main eventer. The difference is it was celebrating 30 years. So you could have main eventers every single wave and they could be a little bit different. It's really no judgment call. It just is what it is. The people that get the most airtime are the ones that sell more product to the casual consumer. And the casual consumer makes up a pretty large percentage even of AEW. So the people that are collecting absolutely everything is maybe close to the majority, but it's not the majority. And so, yeah, you always, if you want to have a healthy line over time, you have to have a very significant percentage to main eventers, and you have to figure out other ways to make sure you celebrate the entire roster, or you lose people.
So one of the big things I remember back when I was collecting Jack's figures is how quite often there was basically like the same body on different guys. You'd maybe see like 4 or 5 different body types at most. I'm
Yes.
kind of wondering what the plan is for the AEW figures. And I guess the question would be at this point, have we seen all of the male body types that there's going to be? And same for the females as well. Have we only seen this one body type or will there be others? And that's excluding Nyla Rose because obviously she's going to have different tooling. But, for somebody like Layla Hirsch, who's, 4'11" and has legs that are like tree trunks, or Abaddon, who's a little bit thicker. Are we going to see more diversity and more body types for the male and female characters?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a happy medium, and I think our objective is to celebrate the uniqueness, but to also have some efficiencies. But I think to date, what you've seen is a lot of tooling and a lot of celebrating individual body styles, and we seem to be over-indexing in that regard. So I wouldn't suspect that to slow down. But I would say that, there'll be some shared tooling for sure.
Now, I know the focus, of course, is on current people that are wrestling right now in AEW, but what about legends? Can you guys do what you guys did over at Jax and get whoever you wanted and make a legends line eventually?
I would, yeah. I mean, I think that there will be celebrating. I know that we will be celebrating legends in terms of the percentage of the line and how it rolls out. That is something, again, that goes in time. So in the earlier days, you will see some, and they will be celebrated primarily probably in unmatched and probably with a sub-branding that I'm not going to reveal yet. But just to let you know, there will certainly be an embracing of the historical roster as well.
Now, what's interesting about AEW is who is part of that crew because you've got guys like Taz, and so in theory you could do a figure of him as a commentator, but he's when he's wrestling, he's just wearing a black singlet. It's kind of generic. Is there a way that you guys would be able to make a classic Taz kind of figure, but not have to deal with WWE and ECW licenses?
I mean, I think that there are ways to celebrate the individual athletes, and a lot of it comes down to what their individual agreements and deals were. And we've we're quite good at this. So in terms of going through those things, but yeah, I mean, sometimes it depends. It depends on the character and it depends on what you're doing.
Another very good answer. I'll give you some points on that one too. Another artfully dodged
No,
answer, sir,
no,
but
look,
it's an answer.
no, the truth, it's just the reality. The reality is every situation is a little bit different because some people have deals that they've signed that are all inclusive and other people don't have anything, and some people signed over merchandising agreements and other people don't. So it really is, it's an individual by individual situation.
It kind of has me thinking like maybe you guys can't necessarily do a Dusty Rhodes figure, but you could in theory maybe do a Virgil Runnels figure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're right on. You're right on. And look, a lot of the guys back in the day owned their name and likeness. So it doesn't get as complicated as all of that, to tell you the truth.
So one of the big hopes that people have had for the AEW figures is that they really, really want to see legends, and in particular, they really want to see Owen Hart. And in 2020, we got our very first figure of Owen Hart in a long time through the Micro Brawlers line. So
Yeah.
again, looking towards legends, someone like Owen Hart, is that a character that could be on your radar?
I mean, look, Owen Hart is always on the radar. Okay. Owen Hart, when I started Classic Superstars 17 years ago, even at that time, he was one of the most sought after athletes on their roster. So it would be less than honest if I tried to play coy here. We would love to do Owen Hart. We may or may not have that in process, and I cannot reveal that. But that would be an awesome, awesome twist and opportunity for the action figure business.
All right, Jeremy, I got a bunch more questions for you. So let's just lightning around this right now here. Build a figures. Can you guys do that? Is that something you're going to do?
It's not currently in the plans.
One character who's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, Brodie Lee, recently departed. Miss him very much. Great guy. I want to get a figure of him sooner than later. What are the plans for Brodie Lee?
Yeah, we want that too. And so we're going to be working with Brodie Lee's family, estate, and AEW to figure out how to bring a figure to the market.
Commentators, can we get ourselves JR? Can we get ourselves a Taz in his outfit?
I think that if we don't, then I will never be able to visit Florida safely. So between JR and Taz and the team, it's something that we must do. Yes.
Now, how about rings? I can see right behind you, you've got the AEW ring. That's the normal $20 ring you can find at Walmart and ringside. There's the
Yeah.
larger real scale or authentic scale ring that you guys have. Are those going to be the only releases of rings, or can we expect more in 2021 and beyond?
Yeah, over time, I think that you can expect to see more. I think you can expect to see the various types of matches that are done. We sort of set the standard years ago when every year we would introduce a new sort of authentic scale ring and a new way to play with the basic rings. But also it requires AEW to take a focus on the different styles of rings as well. And certainly during COVID, that's been a little bit more challenging.
Now, how about a steel cage add-on to a ring or other accessory packs, weapons packs, things like that? Is that a possibility as well?
100%, absolutely. Both that and intra-stage things and all of that. It's all a real possibility. Yes.
Now, back, I think it was either Toy Fair 2019 or 2018, you guys showed off a few interesting things for WWE products. And that was, you had some cardboard ring entrances for like Raw
Yeah.
and SmackDown. You guys had a line of die-cast championship belts that were going to fit the figures. There were some minifigures that went with the board game. So
Yeah.
my question is, can any of those ideas carry over into AEW? Can we see those ideas be recycled and brought back to life with this company now?
Yeah, and look, some of those ideas, to be honest, we were just trying to figure out how to be relevant within the wrestling category because we love it so much. And retail, while they did give us an opportunity with the board game piece, it was never really pushed as a big item. I liked it a lot, but the diecast belts I think are super great. It just and I think that really for the diecast belts, I think that's one that we need to revisit and bring back to life.
Now, I know Britt Baker has been going at you. She wants a figure of herself. And
Yes,
my question to you is also, what are the plans for female wrestling figures? Because right now we've seen up to
yeah,
Series 5 through the leaks, and we still
yes,
only have Brandy, who is incredibly hard to find. We've got Riho, and that seems to be it at the moment. So,
yes.
how many female figures can we expect to see typically in a year from AEW?
I mean, let's just put it this way. If we have 12 waves a year, I mean, the objective is to make sure that the female talent is included in those waves. And so there were a few things that happened logistically that where someone gets injured or they're not on entertainment or whatever. And when it's just one person, it tends to affect your ability to get them out at a certain time. But the objective is to make sure that we have, like I said, a broad roster, and the female talent is so critical to the overall storytelling and so critical to the overall main roster and main event status and all of that. So I don't take that as an indicator of things to come. We're going to make sure that we celebrate the female talent within AEW.
Hey, everybody. Sorry to interrupt this interview that you're watching, but I had one last question for Jeremy that I forgot to ask during our interview together here on video. So I sent him this by email, and here's the response I got. So the question was, there was talk of AEW Series 1 being re released with updated skin tones and supposedly to be at more distribution spots. Is there any truth to that? And if so, what is the anticipated schedule for that release and where they'll be found? So Jeremy emailed me back and he wrote, the objective is and has been to re release Wave 1, but with V2 on every package, so that collectors can specifically determine the difference between Wave 1 and Wave 1 version 2 product. So essentially like a second printing. Originally, we were going to do this at the former factory. However, it looks like we'll have to retool the series, and we are assessing timing in terms of factory availability to set up yet another line that doesn't disrupt production of the latest current wave. So that's your answer about the possibility of Wave 1 being re released. Back to the video. And last question for today,
Uh-oh.
how about a
Oh,
-1 figure?
I mean, that's all part and parcel to Brodie Lee and celebrating Brodie Lee the right way. That would be, to me, that would be absolutely amazing. And I think that, talking about something that would be meaningful to -1 as well, that would be a dream. And that's something that we absolutely are talking about and would love to execute against.
Jeremy, thank you so much for answering all these questions. I know this is like a tough bunch of stuff here that you probably don't want to deal with, but thank you for being
No,
open and honest. And I appreciate the way you've
you're
answered things also. It's very gracious of you.
you're a professional, and I would expect nothing less than professional grade questions. So I appreciate it. I'm glad that we had this opportunity to connect today. I'm glad I've got my new card, and look, one thing I can tell specifically AEW fans is that you can see our level of interaction. It's very high. We do listen. Our objective is to continue to get better and better and better, to address issues as they come. And we're very open about the fact that when you're dealing with an environment where there's third-party factories, retail, and all of those other things, you are thrown all kinds of curveballs, and then you just have to make sure that you become better and better at hitting them. And and that's the way of marketing and manufacturing product to a collector community.
And I do just want to compliment you on that because you are super open on your social media pages. I'm going to have a link, of course, for folks to follow you there. But yeah, you're always great talking to the fans, listening to their feedback. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate you again giving me all this time today and answering these questions that are, I know are, not necessarily always going to be the things you want to hear, but you've been so kind enough to actually answer them. And I do really grateful. I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you, and thank you guys for being fans of the line, and thank you for buying product from Jazwares, which is a great company, and I do appreciate the social follows personally as well. That's very cool. Thank you.
All right, folks, that's Jeremy Padawer. He's awesome, great human being, great toy man, all the above, wonderful person. Can't wait to see you next year at the Javits Center.
Yeah, man, me too. Thank you so much, man. It's been such a great honor to connect with you today, Matthew. It's good to see you, buddy.
Thank you. And everybody else who's here now, make sure you stick around because we got more nerd news today. Toy Fair 2021 coming right up.